Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bear Insider, Ultimate Insider. I'm Mike Pawlawski, and today we have a great show for you. We have one of Cal's all-time great offensive linemen, and you guys know how I love the big boys, who has just been recently nominated and elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. So that will happen this fall. But one of the great players in our history, two-time All-American, Dratty Award winner, and a fantastic football player and a fantastic dude. On top of that, a really, really good friend of mine. Everybody knows I love linemen. Linemen are where the game starts and ends. But among linemen, centers in particular, and really smart centers are kind of the premium. They're the guys. And so right now, one of the greatest centers to ever play at Cal, and according to college football, the College Football Hall of Fame, one of the greatest to ever play, Alex Mack. Alex, welcome to the show, brother.
Mike, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on. Pumped to talk about offensive line stuff.
Always good to talk about offensive line stuff. First and foremost, right, the big news, and the reason I was able to reach out to you, by the way, coming from Ireland this morning for the podcast, which is pretty awesome. But you were just elected into the College Football Hall of Fame, first ballot nominee into the Hall of Fame, and you make it. So congratulations on that. How does that feel?
I was pumped. I think I found out by you texting me, congratulations. I'm like, what is this about? And I had to go on and figure out what's going on. I'm a little out of touch with things because I'm in Ireland. But fantastic news. Like one of those things you never even dreamed of possible. I love football. I love playing it. I went to Cal because I thought I was going to be a mediocre player and I'd use it to get into a great school and get a great education. And I just kept playing. So I'm beyond honored. I'm super fired up. I was kind of walking on air for a while after I got the news.
No doubt about it. It feels surreal. It's so funny that you say you thought you were going to be a mediocre player. And you and I have had this conversation in the past, but I'd love to bring it kind of to the audience at home. Talk to me about kind of your recruiting process and ending up at Cal and how you thought about football at that point.
I grew up in Santa Barbara, and it's a kind of a small football area. There's not that many great players that come out of there. And I just wasn't this big recruit, maybe because I was telling the truth on those forms you used to have to fill out where you're told about what's your bench press. I was honest. It was a terrible mistake. And so I just didn't get recruited much. I wasn't playing really great people. I wasn't, my school didn't have a good relationship with a bunch of colleges or whatever reason was they may be. I got some recruiting letters, but no one really called or saw me. And this is before real internet recruiting or anything. So you had to send actual tapes to people, I think. You just didn't know the system, didn't get recruited. And I only got recruited by Cal because I went to their junior camp or something. And before my senior year, I went to their football camp and practiced with the team, and they saw me in person and really liked me and offered me at the camp. But I, didn't think I was that big. You see stories about how big and fast and strong other people are, and I just didn't think maybe I had the physical gifts to get it done. So it was if I'm actually just a low recruit, not that good, then I've used football to get into a great school. I now can, because I was a California resident, if I failed and got kicked out, I could afford to go to Cal. And it made all the sense in the world. And I was like, oh, that's the place. And it looks amazing. And the Bay Area is really cool. And the campus is beautiful. And they had a good season the year before. And I was super excited to join the Bears.
It's always amazing to me. I was part of the recruiting class when Bruce Snyder took over at Cal. And so Joe Cap had just had, they had the 1-9-1 season. They weren't very good. And Bruce took over, and our recruiting class was considered the worst recruiting class in the Pac-10 that year. And it was the Pac-10. Was it still the Pac-10 when you were playing? Or had it?
I was still Pac-10.
Yeah, still.
I was 10 the whole time.
Yeah, there we go. So, we were both Pac-10 guys. But it was still, we were considered the worst recruiting class. And I tell the story in my book about the bus ride home, David Ortega, who you know because David was around, but David was a linebacker for us, became the winningest linebacker, or the had the most tackles of any linebacker in Cal history. Still has the all-time leading tackler. And David was reading from Lindy's Pac-10 magazine, and it said Mike Pawlawski is an overrated quarterback with a slingshot for an arm and a bad delivery, and he's probably the worst quarterback recruit in the Pac-10. Like that's what I came into. And I remember walking on campus, and the first person I met was Ken Harvey. Now, Ken Harvey went on to play like 11 or 12 years in the NFL. He was a first-round pick by the Washington Redskins. He was an outside linebacker, and they looked like they built the bat suit after his body. Like, this dude was just absolutely ripped. His abs had abs, right? Or his abs had pecs. They were so big. Like, he was huge. And I met him as he's walking out of the shower. And like, here he is. I'm there. I'm this little high school kid, 6 foot, 180 pounds. And he's walking out of the shower, and Mooch, who was my recruiting coach, goes, "Hey, Mike Pawlawski, meet Ken Harvey." And all I'm thinking is, "Oh, Mr. Harvey, like, it's really nice to meet you." And I go, "I hope the rest of the dudes around here don't look like that, because if they do, I am in the wrong place. I cannot play here." What was it like when you got to campus? Being under-recruited, like showing up on campus, what was it like for you when you, like, that first day there?
I was stoked. Like, I don't think I felt too intimidated. I think knew I had a lot of work. I remember one of my favorite stories is like one of the first day of pads, we had like drive drill or something, and I went against Brandon Meebane, who was a sophomore, okay guy, like one of the, not a starter, just one of the younger D linemen on the field. And we did this drive drill and snapped the ball, and he blows me up. I am 10 yards backwards, absolutely destroyed. And that was like the first rep of anything I had. And it was like a realization, like, all right, got some work to do. Because in high school, you're just bigger than people, and anything works. You just kind of throw it all out of the way, and it's just easy. And then now you had to use really great technique to get anything done. And so from that moment on, you just had to work harder and figure out stuff. And you're a young guy and a lot of time in front of you, so you just kind of get to work. I remember having trouble like doing like the wide foot drive kind of thing. So I used to go up all the stairs all over campus with wide feet, because it kind of mimics what like a football position. You don't look absolutely crazy, versus if you walked around wide footed, you'd be really weird looking
all the time. People were like, "There's something wrong with that dude."
Yeah. So that was just like one of the many little things I did to try to get better as quick as I could. Because I
love that. And there's plenty of stairs around Berkeley. It's not like you're
lost stairs
for stairs or hills.
No, a lot of stairs. So a lot of reps and opportunities to, go up and down. And I would do that. I remember doing that like in the NFL when I realized I was watching film and feet came together. I was like, oh, I should just kind of practice this a bit more all the time.
Get back into my wide stance stair drill. I love it. And, that's a mindset that people... Now, I don't want to just say nowadays, because there were people back when I was playing that they'd have that first loss, right? They'd get their ass kicked by Brandon Meebane, or like me, they'd meet Ken Harvey and they'd be intimidated, and they'd kind of let that get in their head. And I think the one skill that I had, and I was a guy, I was never the most talented quarterback in my quarterback room. I was never like the tallest. I was never the biggest. I never had the biggest arm. But the one skill that I had was that there was no quit. Like I just knew the next rep was going to be better, and the next rep was going to be better, and I would keep, biting his ankles until I brought the giant down, whatever it was. You had that mentality as well, obviously. Talk about where that came from for you.
It had to come from coaches, I assume, just in terms of like actually getting better and work on things. Like I would take notes pretty religiously all the time and write everything down and try to remember it all. And I'd watch film and have half of my notepad for things I saw that needed to be worked on. And then I'd, before practice, look at that and think about one or two things that I could fix that day. And you just try to do that. I remember my rookie year, I used to get yelled at a lot in the NFL by our coach because it was a lot of fix. And I was like, okay, this practice, I'm going to work on this step. I'm going to do it right. And I am so fired up for this. And all practice long, that was the one thing I was going to do right. And the first practice is over, we go back to films, we watch films, and he like pauses the film and is like, Alex, what the hell is this? I'm like, nope, you're not going to like me. I thought that's what you wanted. Like I did that all day long. I was doing that because I thought that's what you wanted. So you're not going to like this. Like, because I went in like super excited. I had such a good practice. I fixed this one thing. That's going to be great. And then just like you plummeted down there. I was doing that on purpose all day long as my one thing I was going to do right. And it's the wrong thing. So
that's great.
But sometimes you do the right thing and it would be right, and you fix that, and then you can fix the next thing, and then maybe you have a third thing before you have to go back to the first thing you fixed, and you just kind of build up from there.
And that is kind of, I mean, you just nailed the rhythm of like learning skills. You have to practice with intent to develop the one skill, and then you stack the next skill on top of the skill beforehand, until eventually you have to go back to that first skill that you fixed because you're doing something different, because it felt different because of all these things that you've added to it, right? And so it's a constant game of refinement. One of the things you've been on my show several times now. We went to Guatemala together. We went to South Africa together, right? We did a big shooting show down in Atlanta together with the offensive line from the Falcons, which was awesome. And it gets to my question is we were out there and we were all learning how to shoot pistols, right? Target pistols for speed and accuracy and all that stuff. And you asked a ton of questions. And it reminded me of when we were in South Africa, it was your first hunt ever, taking you out after these plains animals out there. And you asked a ton of questions. And at one point, Jake Matthews, who was your left tackle, correct?
Yeah.
Turns to me and goes, there goes Alex asking all those questions. And it struck me that that's a huge part of your success. Like the fact that you are asking questions, finding every answer before you engage in it, seems to me it's a huge part of your success. Where did that come from? And did you do that intentionally, or is it just part of your inquisitive nature?
Part of my inquisitive nature, I think. I think early on in school, like they encouraged you to ask questions, and I think I just take everything at face value and say if someone wants to hear questions, like, well, this is a learning environment of like there is no stupid questions, and just proceed to ask a bunch of stupid questions, but just like it's not that big of a deal. Like you don't know. You're not going to know unless you ask a question. And I've gotten in trouble a couple times because of that. Like I was supposed to, in high school, I was supposed to read like The Jungle for over summertime. And one day in class, the teacher starts going off about like Jurgis or something. Jurgis did this, Jurgis did that. I'm like, who's Jurgis? Like, what are we talking about? The main character of The Jungle that you're supposed to read? Oh yeah. I forgot. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's how you pronounce that. Yes.
Oh, that's the name. Okay. Oh, my bad. But I've always asked a lot of questions. I don't know. Like, I think I annoyed every teacher and fellow student because I'm sure it's somewhat annoying. Like, it's not it's a classroom environment. It's not just for you, but like someone else is going to have the same question. I try to be nice when I do it, at least.
Well, but So I think it's a superpower. Quite honestly, I think a ton of people won't raise their hands when the time comes and you need to know something. I think a ton of people sit back because they're worried about how other people are going to think of them. Right? They're going to think of me as dumb. They're going to think of me as this, and so they don't raise their hands to ask that question. And I will guarantee that you asking questions actually helped educate a lot of alignment around you during the course of your playing time. Because I've been in quarterback rooms where guys won't ask questions over stuff they don't know. And you look at them, they clearly don't know what you're talking about. There's just kind of this blank stare on their face, but they won't ask the questions. And so I think asking a million questions to get all of your, concerns or all of your your questions answered so that you know exactly what the coach is looking for is super important.
I know with football, anytime a new player would show up or a rookie or anything else, you could see that they didn't know what they were doing by the speed at which they were playing. You know, you put on tape of a rookie and the play happens and they're kind of confused and guessing, and it's just like you don't know what to do. You're not moving with confidence. Like, the game is so fast at that level that when you snap the ball or the ball gets snapped, you need to be going right now, a million miles an hour, A to B, get the job done. And, you know, in your head, you should have thought before that play started of the three options that they're most likely to do. And you should have an answer for those three things. And just that should be how you play the game. And if you don't know what to do, you're going to play slow and you're going to look bad and everyone's going to see it on film.
That is such a powerful point, because I coach quarterbacks this too. You have to have a plan going in. You have to have a plan. Know exactly what you're calling, know why you think the coaches are calling it, and then know what the options are amongst that. And so I have guys who before every game, every day during practice, and then like during the week when I was playing pro ball, I would literally go through my game plan and visualize every single play against every potential coverage that I could see in that game. And so that way, when I came up to the line of scrimmage, I'd already seen this 20, 30 times in my head. And so if they played cover two, if they played man, if they played zone, if they played, single high, I knew exactly what I was going to face. I knew exactly where to go with the football. And depending on who moved, which chess piece moved, I knew where to go when it came up. And so what you are talking about is incredibly powerful, not just as a football player where things move at hyper speed, but in life too, right? I mean, in terms of everything you do, if you have a plan and you've thought through it beforehand, you can't be surprised by what happens.
You should just be like, there's only so many choices that are going to happen. Of course, everything can go totally off the rails, but you should be ready for the basic things. What do you do if, this happens? I don't know exactly how to use that in regular, like, what do I do if my child just doesn't wake up from her nap on time? Do I, not that life and death.
Yeah, but I mean, it happens in business. What if I get this contract? What if I don't get this contract? How do we push through? What if I need another sales meeting? Like, you have a plan. I mean, obviously you have to adapt on the run sometimes, but at least you're not surprised by potential outcomes if you work through all of them in your head ahead of time. And I think so many people only think of this move, and at that they get surprised by that move. But in football, if you've kind of seen it all, if you've done it all, if you've rehearsed it all, it comes so much easier. Talk about your time at Cal. Tell me about, you got there, you're doing wide base step walking up and down campus.
The weird guy who walks upstairs funny.
Exactly. Talk about kind of what it meant for you, that learning experience at Cal, being around not just exceptional athletes, which you obviously were, but also around the caliber of people that you have on campus.
I mean, all of it was just amazing. I remember when I was at the junior year at the football camp, I was walking like Strawberry Canyon between like some dorms and the practice field, and it was this like beautiful sunny day, and you could see all the Bay Area and the Campanile and just this like gorgeous campus. And I was like, wow, what a cool place. And it was pretty hard. I mean, not a lot of other people also recruited me, so it was pretty much my only choice. But I knew they had a big hill to climb to catch up with Cal. When I got there, I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, practice was really hard, and being a full-time student athlete is a lot of work. But all of a sudden, you're like living on your own. You have all this freedom. There's like some college parties you can go to. There's football and all that. And I redshirted my first year, and it was great to like not have to like use eligibility or anything. So I just got to learn and have it as like fun and get like everything under under your belt and figure out how to like manage your time. I remember I need to have a word with the academic advisor that gave me calculus for the first semester, because that class was impossible. And like math had never been impossible for me up to that point. So there was like this big jump academically as well. I remember like I was always great at math, and I was going to maybe be a business school like person. And then I took calculus, and I had like, it was the first time I went to a test where I had a B plus or something going into the final. And I take the test and I sit down, and the typical test taking thing. If you don't know one question, you go to the next. And you start slowly filling out all the questions until you get there. I flipped through the whole book. I didn't know how to do one single thing in the whole final. I'm like, is this a different class? Like, how is this final so difficult? I'm blown away. So I ended up with like a B- or C+ or something, because I had good enough grade to like just tank the final and still pass. But I was like, oh, there goes business school. Like, find another thing to go and try out. So there was some learning curves between getting like mopped on the floor of the football field and having to figure out that I can't just wing it in school anymore. But it was fun.
That is so that is the greatest. I have a good friend who ended up getting his PhD from Cal, and he taught some classes there. And he tells this classic story about being a professor there. And that he had one student in his class. She comes on, and he's doing the review for the test. And he's talking about something, and she raises her hand, and she says, "Will this be on the final?" And he says, "Yes, this will be on the final." And then kind of kept talking through, and then 2 minutes later, she raises, "Will this be on the final?" "Yes, this will be on the final." And so they keep talking through, and she does this 5 or 6 times, and finally he says, "Look, if somebody mentioned it in class, it will be on the final. If it was in the reading, it will be on the final. If it is a topic that was in our curriculum and it was happening while the class was going on, it will be on the final. If it should have been in the text and we missed it and didn't put it in there, or should have been in the textbook and we blew it, it will be on the final. So quit raising your hand. It's going to be on the final." And like 2 minutes later, she raises her hand again and goes, "Will this be on the final?" And he goes over and gives her a quarter. And she says, "Well, what's that for?" And he goes, "That's so that you can call your mommy and tell her you're not ready for college, because it's going to be on the final." And so I think that's such a classic Cal story, because it is. Like, I walked into finals, I was like, they didn't teach this year. I don't know where this comes from, but if I'm expected to know this, that's not fair.
Yeah, there's just a jump in level, and you have to be prepared for it. I remember I did like an English paper or something. I wrote the paper and submitted it and whatever, and it was filled with different errors and got a terrible grade on it. And I was like, "Ooh, okay, I should probably avail of maybe the things that the school provided." Like, there was the athletic study center had tutors that would just proofread over your paper. And so I just made it a habit of having it done a day early to then hand it to them, and they could highlight all the things that had bad grammar or whatever else. And then I'd fix that and then turn that in, and it raised the whole letter. So,
and again, so this gets right back to what we were talking about before, asking the questions, right? Doing the little things. So many people think that huge success comes in like these big chunks. All of a sudden you become this All-American. Right. And that's not the way it works. It's doing the wide-based steps as you walk up to campus, like that little thing. It's finishing the paper early to get somebody to help you to look at it, to kind of review your mistakes. It's the little steps, every little step, right? Dan O'Brien, who's an Olympic gold medalist, 3-time world champion decathlete, is a good friend of mine, and he talks about training where it's getting incrementally better, one step better every single day. And what you're doing and what you're talking about, in tests, but also in terms of the wide-based walk up the stairs, is doing that, like finding that little place to get better all the time. Were you like intentional? Were you aware of that process of thinking when you were doing it?
I can't remember if someone told me about that or I just didn't want to waste like time or effort. I all I remember it was a habit to not practice things wrong or to like make the most out of all of it. Like there's all this stuff they make you do. There's all these walkthroughs and you can do all kinds of, some people would just stand there and like take a step. But if you're gonna just for like a little bit more effort, you could do like the one step you need to practice, or think about the footwork, or take a proper set, and then like it's a walkthrough, so no one's hitting you. You don't have to hit anybody, but you could practice that footwork. You could do that one thing. You could try to get something out of it. I think I always watch like some other people and they'd be in a bad stance and just stand up and like walk over there to mimic for the assignment check. But if you're for just a little bit more effort, you could actually work on your footwork, or you could do two steps. It's not going to wear you out. And then you can do everything else. You don't have to go full speed through every walkthrough and, smash the guy holding the bag. You can just work on the one or two things you need to work on and get a little bit better.
Yeah, extra little thing that pushes you to that next level, right? That gets you to the edge. And so that thinking led to two All-American awards for you, right? When you were at Cal?
Think so?
Yeah, and when you look back on that, talk about how that felt when you win those All-American awards, right? It's a huge honor, and you win them at the time. Talk about what that felt like, having been that recruit who you're like, well, if football doesn't work out, what the hell?
I think there's a small chip on my shoulder to like prove people wrong or to do stuff. I think there was some small amount of that. I think at some point in my Cal career, people were like, wow, you're going to be pretty good. You should this football thing is going to work out for you kind of thing. Like you might play in the NFL. And I was like, really? Cause my high school goal was to get an education. And then if I was really lucky, I could play in NFL Europe. And what a cool time to be able to live in Europe and see the world and play football. And that was my high school goal. And, while in college, they disbanded NFL Europe and I kind of overshot the mark. But it was I never did football thinking that this was going to be my career and football is going to, this is what I am. I was always, hey, football's fun. I really enjoy this. And I can keep doing this and get education. And then it was oh wow, I'm getting education and football's really fun and I could maybe play in the NFL. And then I just kept playing in the NFL.
You just kept playing, which is great. So you do end up, right? You get two All-Americans. You also win. It was the Drady when you were there, right?
Or was it was the Drady Trophy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's now the Campbell Trophy.
I think, I don't know. I was never really in the running for it, so I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But they call it the academic Heisman. It's for the player who is best athletically on the field, right, playing wise, and academically, kind of as a combined trophy. And it's the Greek ethos, right? Excellence in everything. It's what we try to talk about at Cal. It's really the epitome of being a Cal player. Talk about what that was like for you when you won it. They still have your picture of you holding that up in the locker room or as you walk, going into the meeting offices. I love it. I took a picture of it the other day. I think, did I send it to you? I was watching your big smiling mug. I was thinking of you. I was
pretty happy.
Walking, that makes you laugh. Yeah.
That was such a cool honor because it was just an honor to get nominated for that. Because all the other nominees that were there was 15 or 20 of us or something. And I was wow, these guys are really good and really smart. This is, what a cool honor to be here with them. And then I win it. And I'm no way. This is there was, what is the, imposter syndrome? kind of thing. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, this is someone made a mistake. Like, we need to recount these votes or something. But I was good at football, and I had a good academic record, and I was graduating 4 years and got 90% of a master's done. So I'm not perfect.
That's pretty good, though. Good enough to win the Dratty, so that's impressive. You get drafted in the first round by Cleveland as a center. Talk about the jump going from Cal to the NFL, what that was like for you. You talked a little bit about what it was like to be there as a rookie, and how quickly did you get on board? Because you started playing right away when you got there.
I think they put me in right away. The starting center, who's now, I think, the line coach for the Lions, I think he's still there. He got bumped out of his job because I got drafted, and he was definitely better than me as a rookie. I mean, I think I became better eventually, but I had the lie that the best five play is a lie. Like, the best five will play unless there's someone's job to develop somebody, kind of thing. Like, I should have been on the bench for a while and learned a bit more, but they threw me in right away, which is great for me because I got all this experience and I got the school of hard knocks, this time to develop. But thrown in right away, a lot of hard lessons learned on a team that was terrible. And it's really hard. There's so many ways I could go with this. I mean, the slowly getting better and working on things and that game experience and how much better I got. And then having Hank Fraley, who I replaced, be such an amazing teammate. And through it all, I just took his job and his family's livelihood. And he could not have been more helpful to me, telling me things, coach me up, noticing stuff, telling me tips, just what an amazing person he is to help a rookie that way. What a good dude. And I always tried to emulate that later in my career. You know what? If it's my time, it's my time. I'll help everyone as much as I can, because there's other guys who aren't that, big. They would, want you to fail so they would have their job security longer, kind of thing. And Hank was such a great player to be there with and to see him and how good he was at seeing the game. The other big jump from college to NFL was, in college you have schoolwork.
Right. And
all of a sudden I thought, without school, I'm going to have so much free time. I'm going to have to get a hobby or something. What am I going to do with it? And then no. It's all football.
Yeah. Football is your schoolwork.
Yes. It's all day long. Football. The game just gets so much more complex. It just grows. You don't realize you've been playing in a very small window of what is possible. And then everything gets more complex. And in college, the person you faced in college that was the best player you faced your whole time is likely just one of the many people on the field at the NFL. And then they don't go anywhere. They don't graduate. They just stay there, and you get to play them all the time, and it's a nightmare.
And they get better and stronger and bigger and faster until they don't, right? It's so funny when you talk to kids, and I get the great opportunity to coach, quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, college guys, and high school guys too. And the high school guys, they're thinking, we're all that, we got this going on. And what they don't realize is everybody who gets a college scholarship is not only the best guy on their team, but they're the best guy in their league, and they're probably the best guy from the area, for all the cities and counties surrounding them for 100 miles, right? That's the guy that gets a college scholarship. And then you take all those guys who are the best guys that, all conference, all world, and you weed them down to one or two guys who then go on to play in the NFL. So it's the best of the best of the best guys who move on to the next level. And you get to the NFL, and even the guys who are drafted, who maybe don't even make the team, are really, really, really good football players. And so to become the guy in that level, that's a pretty big deal.
I remember like we played like USC, and Cedric Ellis was the best D tackle that USC had that year, and he was the guy, and he got drafted somewhere and did really well. And then like 2 or 3 years later, we were playing like the Saints or something, and he was one of the backups for the other guys. And I was like, oh, I remember, like, that means these guys are better than him. The big guy who I was, like, oh, like, everyone's really good.
Really good. You get Heisman Trophy guys that don't win it, right? They win the Heisman Trophy in college and then they don't make it at the next level. And so it's just amazing that kind of the jump in talent and the jump. It's this funnel of incredible talent that the difference at the next level is what you did all along as a player, right? It's asking every single question. It's getting better no matter what you're doing, right? Finding a way to make stairs a training device. Finding a way to do the little things to, like I said, I used to get on the exercise bike and visualize while I was doing my workout. And so I used every moment to improve, to get better. So since like all this stuff has happened, obviously you go on, you play in Cleveland, you play in Atlanta, you go to a Super Bowl in Atlanta, right? And you finish off your career in San Francisco. From the time that you were a rookie to the time that you were a vet, I'm sure the time that you retire, there's a ton of stuff that you learned, but what's the big point that you learned during that time?
I mean, you could take this as positive or as negative as you want. When I was in Cleveland, we didn't win many games. And so it was really hard. You had to part of that was a benefit because it was never good enough. So there was this like deep striving urge to like get just that little bit better to help your team win and just really like hone yourself to be absolutely not the reason your team lost. And it didn't work. We still lost a bunch. But I think that group of guys got really good because we had a coach that was driven and we had a good room. We all worked really hard and we became a very good offensive line room, and I learned tons, and we still lost. And then I remember going into like Atlanta, and we like had this incredible run and we're winning all these games. And there was stuff that was going wrong at the time. And it was like, this is a big deal. Like we can't let that happen. Like we got to fix that kind of stuff. And I mean, this story would be perfect if we would won the Super Bowl versus lost, but there's, when everything's working right and you're winning, it's easier to like gloss over some stuff. Like, oh, that was a mistake. It didn't cost us a game until it does. But there's just all these like lessons you can learn about winning and losing that football gives you. That's really powerful. Like I found a way to spin having 7 years of a losing record as a positive. I got really good at football. I didn't win many games, but it really helped me develop and get better and strive and work and do stuff. And I think as you take that to the next level, like no one will be more resilient than somebody who comes out of like 7 years in Cleveland.
7 years in Cleveland. Yes, that's a book. I think that's a book in there somewhere.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I mean, it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think life lessons would be about like working hard and perseverance and, making the most of it and all these other stuff. I think for football, it became to be good at football is a boring life. You don't get to do the flashy stuff. You're studying film late. You're taking care of your body. You're not going out and doing fun things. You're sitting on your couch. You have to rest. And there's all these like trade-offs you do. You have to be really selfish. You can't go to your mom's birthday. Can't make it, have a game. Sorry, mom. There's stuff like this that you have to like keep doing and be really boring about. And it's tough. And I think it's worth noting that like there's a trade-off. But I mean, it's how you get really good at stuff, and you just devote a lot of time and effort and focus, and there's payoff in the end.
It's so funny and so simply said. It's absolutely true. I have friends that would get married in the fall, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to be there." Well, what do you mean you're not going to be there? You've got to be there. Well, no, it's football season. I'm not. Even as a broadcaster now, right? I work. That's like, this is my time to work. I get married in the summer, we'll all be good. But if you get married in the fall, I'm not going to be there. There are trade-offs that you have to choose. I actually talk about it in the book when I talk about the farms in the Central Valley of California, right? Where we divert water in the Central Valley of California is where we grow stuff, because California is not a water-rich state. We are a land-rich state, but not a water-rich state. And so if you send the water to the land, it will grow. But if you divert it all over the place, nothing will grow anywhere because there's not enough water to make it go. You only have so much effort to give. And so when you focus that effort into, a singularity of playing football, getting better at football, or getting better at this drill in this moment, give all my attention to that, then you see improvement. If you don't, if you scatter it, if you don't have the discipline, right? If you're one of those guys that loves to go out and, go to the bars and drink, then you're not going to have the energy the next day of practice. And so that the intent and the focus on getting better and the ability to eliminate the things that distract from that, it's again another superpower that kind of fits everything that we've talked about for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You have so much time in the day, and what are you going to spend it doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So since all that, you retired. Tell me about what you're doing now.
I am retired. I haven't found necessarily the next thing. In California, I was remodeling a house, and I learned a lot of carpentry skills because I did a lot of it myself. I mean, not a lot of it, but I did some carpentry stuff myself. And that was fun. Did some woodworking. I've done some broadcasting stuff for NFL games on the radio, which has been fun, and need more practice at it because it's a skill.
It's a skill, for sure.
But it's fun. It's one of those things where I retired and I had always wanted to do a 2-month train ride vacation trip through Europe. And so me and my wife were able to do that, go through all of Europe on a train, wherever we wanted to go, just kind of dipped around for, 2 months. And I didn't have to worry about training anymore. I didn't have to worry about working out and finding a gym and doing stuff and being in shape. And it was awesome. And then we had our daughter soon after that. And now I get to be practicing being a dad and learn how to do that stuff. And we were able to, I'm in Ireland right now visiting the in-laws. So that's awesome. I don't know what's next for me. I'm not bored. So I think that's a good start. I'm, enjoying things. I'm trying to learn Spanish again. So there's some, not again, but
I remember you were trying to learn. I remember you were trying to learn Spanish when we were in, was it Guatemala? No, I think it was South Africa, because you had it on the app on your phone that you were trying to learn Spanish back then.
Now level 14 in Duolingo.
Very nice.
I took years off.
Yeah, just a couple. One of the things about you is, and I love this. This is fantastic. You love to travel the world. Like, you love travel like nobody I know who loves to travel. Talk about where that came from, and like you said, you're in Ireland right now visiting the in-laws. You went so far as to marry an Irish woman. Like, that's how far you went.
Commitment, yeah.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to play football and have a lot of free time right after the season, and I wanted to use that time to see the world. I was, at the time young and could do it and could afford to go and travel and do stuff. So every season would end and I would take 2 months or, and however much time I could to see a new country kind of thing. So I think I have like 55 countries that I've seen, and it was fun. Now I've definitely slowed down with the child. It's not easy to just flying around the world with a toddler and bringing the pack and play. But, I'm okay with that. I was able to do it when I was a bit younger with, less strings attached. to hold you down, and it was fun. And it was one of those things that I used the travel in the off season as a reward from all the hard work. So I wouldn't do anything all football season and train and do all that stuff. And then while I was healing, it would be like, well, in season, I'd be like, I can devote another hour watching film because I'll totally be able to disappear once the season's over. That's my time to get away and do stuff.
That's awesome. And that's a great trade too, right? To have that mental framework that this is the time for this right now, and I'll have my time for something else later on, knowing that you're going to give yourself a break from it. You're going to love the fact that, my wife, Suzanne, and she also loves to travel the world. This year we went to Finland and we explored our Viking roots over there. And then this spring, we're going over to France to go see Queen in concert. And so that's going to be a fun little trip, and going to go tour all the things that you tour in Paris. And we're hitting the countryside. We're going to travel by train and then finally go to the concert. I believe it's in Lille, France. So I'm trying.
We saw the Rolling Stones in Marseille.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm trying to brush up on my French right now.
We.
Very good. Well, dude, it's as always, it's always fun to have you on the podcast, have you on the shows. One of my favorite travel companions when we go overseas. So loved having you here, dude. Loved hearing your story. Congratulations, huge congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction. I think that's a big deal, right? Cal Hall of Fame coming. You're not in the Cal Hall of Fame yet, right?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, so that's coming. That'll be next. But College Football Hall of Fame, and maybe you can make it a trifecta with the NFL Hall of Fame. You were the best
We're
one playing. Yeah, we're hopeful.
It would have been helpful if I had won that one game in the Super Bowl, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? That's right. Well, congratulations, dude. Congratulations on an incredible college career. Loved watching you play. Loved broadcasting your games back then. An incredible NFL career. An amazing wife in Rachel. She's incredible. And then now a beautiful daughter. So
I'm a lucky man.
On all of it. You are,
Mike, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you are truly a lucky man. Awesome to have you on, brother. Always a great time talking to Alex. Like I said, I traveled the world with him. Guatemala, South Africa, Atlanta. We've been everywhere, talked to him a lot, got to know him a ton. And as you can see, just one of the most personable dudes, smart dudes, and clearly a very hard worker at what he did. The epitome of an offensive lineman and a center, just kind of continuing to work, getting better with every rep. And I love that about him. Appreciate you guys being here today. Hope you enjoyed this show. Looking forward to spring ball coming up soon. But for Bear Insider and Ultimate Insider, I'm Mike Pawlawski. As always, go Bears.